Hello, it's Liv from far in the future. I never filmed an intro for this, so this is the intro. Today I'm going to be taking you through my AP portfolio from 2021. I made this during the pandemic. I switched my idea like at least 3 times, and eventually my teacher encouraged me to submit my abstract art. I've created abstractly for so long, and that was something that was really abundant during quarantine. Was I was creating abstract art constantly, and they all told a narrative, and I decided to piece together a shorter narrative that still worked to submit as my AP portfolio. Now, this isn't really to show you how to make an AP portfolio or how to get a good score, because I never got a good score. I took the AP exam or the AP Studio exam twice, got a 2 or a 3 both times, and I'm going to Pratt. So it's like, I don't know how much to weigh it by, because I still got into like my dream school, and I remember like receiving that score and being like, okay, we're not gonna let this keep us down. And I'm pretty sure I received the score when I was already committed to Pratt, so like I was like, okay, sure. I don't know, and I think it taught me a big lesson on how I should value my art in a way that isn't defined by outside influences all the time, and that not everyone is going to see your art and value your art in the same way that you think it deserves. So that was a huge lesson for me, and I'm mainly making this video just because I want to show off these beautiful pieces and tell you the story behind them all and the techniques that went into them and just the thought. So I hope that you enjoy this video, and let's get into it. So I included all of the pieces here along with the titles of each piece, just so you could get a close-up view of all of these amazing paintings and also get some context for their titles and such. And then we'll get right into all of the explanations. Enjoy! Okay, so first up is The Wonder of Wonder. This piece I call the beginning of the series. It's actually technically a piece I made before this one, but this one really is the beginning of this series. This series is actually like 50 pieces long, but obviously in an AP portfolio you can only submit 15. So I had to select which ones created the quickest story, because they're all part of one story, the history of me and the way I perceive the world, but only like 15 of them I could include, so I kind of shortened and made sure that I had the right ones to like collect a coherent path. So this is the first one. It is called The Wonder of Wonder, and you can see there are what I call lost spirits, lost souls, wandering around in the abyss, or like the spiritual mind, and trying to find a way in and a way of greater understanding. This for me symbolized the beginning of my spiritual journey and the cultivation and culmination of my curiosity. This piece I really love because I'll show close-ups, but there are so many really dark values in this piece, but also light values that help bring it out, and all of the many layers create this effect of making it seem like it is more layered than it is, and creating this really amazing depth, and then kind of disrupting that with the white on top. It just creates this really cool effect, and this one is honestly one of my favorites. It was so fun to make. I was really just like experimenting and figuring out where this was going to go. I had no idea that making this one piece was going to turn into this whole thing, and I think you can tell that it has turned into a giant project. There are blues and purples and greens, which are my favorite colors. They reflect me the most. Now, I would say that this concentration is probably not the most standard concentration. This was my second year of taking AP art, so I kind of did a more structured one my first year, and then I just exploded into this abstract, which my art teacher and I had a conversation, or many conversations about it, and we decided, and he really told me that abstract art is mature and does show a lot of technical skills that you wouldn't really think about if you're not really in an abstract mind. I take into account every single thing you would in a realistic piece, but it's a little more subconscious and is still very much reflected in the piece, as you can see. These bodies of work to me were more mature and more skilled than my realistic pieces. And that's not to say in the future I won't do realistic series, because I still do appreciate realistic pieces, but this abstract series is a greater meaning and, to me, greater technical skill as well. So this next one is called Portal. It is a continuation, obviously, of the first one. This one is about a more deep abstraction of the first one. So you can see there are still these wandering spirits, but they've lost their physical form and have evolved and are continuing to find a way in. The swirling of the brush marks show the way the energy moves in a circular motion into the core, which to me symbolized the deep spiritual awareness and the ever-evolving practice, and these spirits were finding their way in, and this to me symbolized my journey inwards and finally finding a way in, juxtaposing the beginning piece where I was lost and wandering and trying to find what it was that my soul was calling, and this is when I found it. This one I used more brush strokes. In this entire piece I normally just used a sponge, water, and paint. But in this one I did little brush strokes to symbolize the movement. I actually do really like this one. I do want to see if I could turn this into its own series of itself that's a little less movement based and a little more structured, because it's a good intersection of I think impressionism and abstract art. So I do want to explore this more in the future. And yeah, there are a lot of colors you can see underneath it that come through. I believe I might have done a painting under this and abandoned it. So there's a bunch of different colors, but you still see the common theme of colors being blue, purples, and greens. And eventually I do kind of stray away from this, but there's always still a little anchor of similar colors. And this one I really liked because although you don't have the same layering as in the other ones, it still shows this depth, and having the underlayer of all these blending colors and then the movement of the brush strokes just really brought it together. And I love doing the dripping part, so that's when I do I have high flow acrylics and I spray them with water and they drip everywhere, and that really helped create a sense of depth and layering in a lot of places in this piece as well. So this one is called Storm. This was actually created a lot later than most of these pieces, and I have documentation of the entire process of each layer, so maybe if I can find those I will include them in here. But this piece was kind of an accident. I didn't expect it to become like this. I was expecting to go into it and create one of my really wiggly pieces, and then I did a couple of movements in the back and then in the front, and I loved the way this cuts the background and these colors cut the background, and then these ones are so tucked in and juxtapose the red background, and there's just so much depth and mixing and coloring. It reminds me of a storm. It reminds me of the hecticness and the craziness of life and the storm, and about how you can encounter setbacks, but there's always beauty within those setbacks and lessons within those setbacks that help eventually propel you forwards. And this piece is truly amazing. There are so many colors. I remember when I made this, I was concerned because it obviously is a little muddier. I used reds and blues and purples and yellows, and it created this really cool muddy color. And eventually, at the beginning I was like, oh, all of my pieces are really vibrant, I don't know if I vibe with this muddy color. And then looking into it, you can see all this detailed, beautiful coloring within the muddy color, which I think there's a lesson within there somewhere. I don't know, this piece is incredible. I truly, truly, truly love this piece, and I think it's such a powerhouse. Like, every time I show someone in my portfolio, this one is always the one that draws them in. And I truly love this piece and think it is so incredible. And again, it displays the layering and values, and really shows the experimentation with different colors and layering and different products and different tools, because although I use the same tools, I use them in different ways in a lot of these pieces, which shows experimentation. And this entire series is experimenting. It was an accident in the beginning, and then it evolved into this huge thing of like exploring my psyche and me. And I don't know, these pieces really, really reflect that and strongly show the message behind it. Obviously, abstract art is up to interpretation, but with a little guidance of what I see in these pieces, I think you can really see where I was going with it and how it's evolved. So this next one is called Nightmare. Again, continuing with these reds motifs. All of the colors I use have different meanings to me. Red to me normally symbolizes anger, which a lot of people associate that, but to me it also is passion and chaos. And the colors can mean something totally different in another piece than they do in this piece, but every single color I use has a meaning behind it and has a message within it, and I think that's a really strong thing throughout my portfolio. This one is really cool. It reminds me of the first one in a few ways because it has the similar movements. I was still experimenting and learning how to move. It has blacks in it that help bring it darker down, and it has a lot of the same squiggles and same like drips, but it has a completely different message. So this one I made after having a nightmare that triggered me, and I couldn't get out of it, and I felt really trapped and I was panicking. And a lot of times when I have really strong emotions, the first thing I want to do is paint. So I came here and I did my intuitive color picking and threw it on a canvas, and this is what happened. And I think it really, really, really expresses that chaos, the depth, the franticness of the way that it moved, the really tight coils, and they're super fast. You can really see the chaos and how it was not like a slow piece. It was very chaotic, a very strong emotion within it that was an emotion that I'm not normally used to or that I get really scared by. And I think you can really, really see that in the piece. This next one is called Brain Fog or Brain Fuzz. It is about dissociation. I suffer from derealization and depersonalization, and I just generalize and call it dissociation most of the time. And that was something that came after the crash of this piece, the Nightmare piece. So this one's very chaotic and very, very strong. You can see the colors, it's very bold, but this one is very muted and fuzzy. And to me, that symbolized my dissociation when I feel disconnected from my body or disconnected from reality and things are fuzzy. And I painted this while dissociated, and I think you can tell, and I think that's kind of the key to it. And there are so many colors in this. I really was just like, I felt disconnected. I was not painting with my normal colors. I was not moving in the same way. I was not doing my intuitive color matching. I think I subconsciously was, but I wasn't as consciously doing it as I am when I'm grounded. And it was just this culmination of the franticness I feel when I'm dissociated, because I don't like feeling disconnected, and the fuzziness of the way I did like a sheen over it almost, and all these drips going in multiple directions. You can see that this dripped this way, this dripped this way, and it was just really chaotic and really beautiful, and I think it perfectly displays the way I feel when I'm dissociated. and there's just so much detail, so much fuzziness. I could stare at my pieces for hours. I wish sometimes that I could just reset my brain. I don't actually want to do that, but sometimes I wish I could see my paintings with fresh eyes. But that's why I love sharing them with you guys, because you guys get to experience that. And this piece is just stunning, and it really, really reflects the feeling of dissociation, at least for me. And again, it still has the same motifs in the other ones. A lot of darkness, paying attention to value and layering, and experimenting with different layers and different textures and all of that, and different movements. And it just really helps evolve the portfolio along the way. So this piece is called Tranquility. It is, I don't know, it just perfectly, to me, reflects tranquility. A lot of people also, when they look at it, see the movement of water, like when you're on a boat, or just the rhythm of water and waves, which I completely understand. And there's a lot of depth in this too. You can see the darker blues on like a deeper layer, and then these lighter turquoises and whites and teals on the surface, and it just really shows like peace within myself, and showing that even on the surface, if it looks calm, there's sometimes struggles within. But this piece is just beautiful. The movement is really beautiful, and it really just captures the essence perfectly. And again, I'm like experimenting with doing these liquidy layers on top to create these drips that really help bring in this essence of layering, because this is on top of that, and then so on. And there's these little like windows almost where you can see into a past layer over another layer, and just showing the different layers and showing a glimpse of what was there before. And I think that's just really beautiful. So this one is called Dew, D-E-W, and it symbolizes the calm after rain, when the earth starts to recover and grow and flourish, and there's kind of that like misty effect, because if it's warm out, like the water is evaporating and it creates this like fog-like sheen, and it's just really green and beautiful, and that like smell in the air after it rains. And not in a city, like in like the country, you know. But this one is really watery and not like as thick and pasted on as the other ones. You have like these sheens in the background of like really watered down greens that are layering on top of each other, that show this really fascinating effect of layering. And then on top, I experimented with a fan brush and did these little swirls, kind of like what I would do with a sponge, but with a different brush. And that's the first time I introduced using this brush in this series, and it shows experimentation with different brushes and different tools. And it was really fun to mess around with that, having multiple layers of the brush coming in behind it, these whites, these wispy colors, and just kind of muted, but not muted in the sense of like the dissociation one, just more calm. And I think this one just really shows, it's kind of disrupts the pattern of the other ones and shows like different willingness to do different types, not getting too comfortable in one movement, in one thing, because I think in art, if you get too comfortable, then you're not really growing, and kind of showing that I'm willing to challenge what I do and challenge my the things I commonly do in my pieces. So the next one I sold, so I'm just gonna like insert a picture here so you can see it. This one, I forget what I called it. Actually, I don't think I ever titled this one. And I just really liked this one because it was so deep and rich, and the greens were just so beautiful. And this one, I experimented with doing it all wet. Normally in the other ones, I would let a layer dry, then come back, do another layer, dry, another layer, dry, and so on. This one, I did everything wet on wet. So I did the like sheen layer where I just do like a base color with some water. Then I did the like really thick paint on, and then I did the fan brush, and just the way it melded together, and like all of the layers were disrupted, but you could still kind of see in the past layer, but there was not as much white space and not as much depth within, but still created this really, really beautiful effect. And it really was so deep and rich, and I loved the colors. I loved the little hint of orange in there too. And this piece was just so amazing. I remember I created this painting after stream one day. My brain was just so clogged, and I created 3 pieces at once, and I just needed to get everything out, and it was like brain stew. I call the pieces where I'm just like spewing like the toxins in my brain out brain stew. So I have multiple brain stews, but like it was just so beautiful and such a powerful piece, and it's like tiny. It was like an 11 by 14 canvas because I like had no canvas, and I just picked one up and I was like, you are it. And I don't know, this one again shows an experimentation with a different technique, and while still having the same commonalities with other pieces, it still has experimentation with different techniques. So this one I call Fairyland or Magic Land or Fantasyland, one of those, whatever really calls me in this day. But this one is so playful, and it reminds me of a kid-like nature. And to me it symbolized healing my inner child and giving my inner child space to grow and flourish and just evolve, and loving the things I do that are like a childlike nature even now, and giving myself the space to believe in magic and believe in the beautiful things and honor all the things I used to do as a kid that I cut off for so long. And this piece again is really misty, kind of like dew, because there's a lot of, and like a dissociation one, but there's the base layer of paint, and then I did a lot of the fan brush, but these ones are more tight but so beautiful and capture so many different colors as it goes throughout. There's so many colors on here, and all of them to me symbolize childhood. And there are the deep blues in the background, greens, these purples and whites and blues, these deep violets back there. Just so many colors that to me symbolize childhood. And then on top I experimented with splattering white paint, and those look like stars, and to me those like are like little fairies and orbs and stuff that I believed in as a kid that I didn't let myself believe as I grew up. And it really just helped. I don't know, it's just a beautiful piece in my mind. So this one is called Forest. It is very similar to the one before it. It is still childlike and fantasy-like and like imaginative and believing in this magic. I remember painting this one after reading a fantasy book, and I love fantasy books, and I was just so vibrant and feeling good and like imaginative, and it reminded me of like when I was a kid and believed in magic, and I still kind of do, but that's a whole other story. But it was just so vibrant, all of these neon colors, these greens, it's a whirlwind, it's like a fun house. It's just so many different colors matching together, and it's so chaotic, but it comes together all so beautifully. And I started experimenting with putting similar colors on the base of these other layers to create it like kind of look like it's coming down over the other layers and over other movements of paint, and using a spray bottle and just really messing around with these like fan brushes and using a spray bottle to drip the fan brush strokes. And there's just so many beautiful layers and experimentation and just having fun like a child, which is something I did a lot throughout this series, but really in these 2 pieces you can really see it. This piece I absolutely love. It like makes my heart so happy. I'm like, so this one is about myself. It is about finding myself, understanding my identity, and just coming and growing into myself and feeling more confident within myself. And there's just so many different layers and culminations, and this yellow sun that's like the core of my being, and just like the light within me that like protrudes out. And these are symbolic of like everyone's different energies that like I encounter and that I love, and just like all of the healing I've gone through and the healing I have yet to do. And there's just so many beautiful combinations of these colors that just flow together, and it's just so stunning and beautiful, and I absolutely love it. There is another deeper meaning behind this piece that maybe I'll explain one day, but for now that's what I'll tell you, and I think it's absolutely amazing. Again, same techniques, same like sophistications and like things I'm keeping conscious while doing it, values and layering and just all these different techniques, and I just really love this piece. This next one is called Universe, and this is actually the first one that I was talking about. This was the first of the entire 40 pieces, the first, and I didn't know that it would evolve into this. And This piece is truly so amazing. I like lose my breath every time I look at it. Like, it is just incredible. The layering and just all the different colors and all the different values and just everything on top of each other. It was really about experimenting and just finding and just feeling. And this piece to me symbolizes awareness, and awareness of the universe, and awareness that we are a part of a greater picture and we are all pieces and fragments of the universe. And that's what really branched off this entire series. This is like the culmination and like the mother of all the other pieces, and you can see the movement, the drips, the experimentation, and this is really what got me into it and passionate about it. And I felt so alive and connected when I was making this piece, and it just really shows the experimentation of these different values and depths, and like I said in all the other ones, and it's just really, really amazing. I experimented with splatter, water, paint, just all these different like things, so many different colors, just like every color within it almost, and I just think it's truly incredible. And this actually sits in our living room downstairs. I had to bring it up for this, but I truly love this piece so much. So I forget the title I had for this piece, but this was about awareness and different portals. It is very similar to the second piece in the series. It has like these portals and movement and all these different colors. I think this one's beautiful. I don't entirely remember or know my exact meaning behind it, but I obviously know that it's about awareness and exploring different portals and exploring different aspects of yourself. And I just love the texture, these brush strokes here, the colors, the drips here are incredible. The drips going over this one. There's something that happened that almost looks like an eye right here, and I thought that was really, really cool. It kind of looks like the Eye of Ra. That wasn't intentional. That's exactly what it looks like because I'm staring at one over there, but I think it's so cool, and it just really like talks about like I said, awareness and exploring different aspects of yourself and looking at like even the dark sides of you that you learn are beautiful, and just really taking on that journey with like your whole heart and awareness and just being ready for it. Even if you're not ready for it, you're open to what's going to happen. Final piece, this one's beautiful. This one is about pathways. It's called Pathways, and it's about learning that there are so many different branches off of your path, and there are so many different things you can do and learn and experience, and this is just the like openness to what's to come next. And it's just very like wispy and movement based and just like pathways. These are all different pathways, lots of drips. I just love the colors in this. I'll zoom in so you can see it a little better, but yeah, this piece is truly incredible. I love it so much, and that is the final piece, and I think it is a perfect close off to this entire series. Yeah, I don't know, this is truly one of my favorite pieces, and I've said that I believe, like about every piece. All of the pieces are my favorite. I can't pick one. But yeah, this piece is truly incredible, and I love it so, so much. And that's the last piece, 15. I really hope that this video brought you some great insight and that you enjoyed seeing all these pieces. This was such a fun video to create, and I really enjoyed like diving deep into all of these pieces. So I really hope that this brought you some joy or some insight, or you just enjoyed watching it. And I have a ton of paintings like these available on my Etsy if you'd like to check them out. But thank you so much for being here, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye!